Sleepy Joe says federal government will cover 100% of disaster relief costs for 180 days. I love how our government is so willing to let our money be spent on whatever, especially when it's something that should definitely be focused locally. After all, California, if it were a nation, it would have the fifth largest economy in the world. They don't lack money. They don't lack funds. They lack leadership. So, and you're not going to be able to buy leadership by giving out federal handouts. You know, this does bring up a quick point I have to make, because as a limited government guy, I do believe that the federal government should be pretty much almost entirely eliminated. I know that sounds crazy, but you could legitimately eliminate 90 to 95% of the federal government, and things would run exponentially smoother than they do today. And I have the privilege, the blessing really, of being able to stay consistent on this issue, which is why there will be those who are going against this, saying, "Oh, they're doing too much." But these are the same people, usually conservative show hosts, not ripping on anybody in particular, but these same conservative show hosts are saying, "Why are they not doing enough in North Carolina? Why are they sending in FEMA? Why is FEMA understaffed, and why don't they have any money? It's because they're spending it all on illegal aliens. We need to get more money. We need to get more federal government assistance in North Carolina and the surrounding states." And I was like, no, just keep the federal government completely out of it. It's a state local issue. And it should have been from the start. And it should still be a state and local issue. The presence of the federal government actually hampered relief efforts in North Carolina and surrounding states. If you just kept the federal government completely out of it and allowed fellow Americans to help their fellow Americans, allowed city and state and local governments to be able to do what they can to assist the people, to allow the people to help themselves, then things would have been a lot smoother. And yet we had so many of these conservative hosts out there, "Oh, the federal government needs to spend more," because they weren't. It's almost as if the notion is whatever the Democrats do, we'll take the opposite approach. You have to be consistent. If you're going to be out there spreading the word and talking about this stuff, then you have to stay consistent. So as I was against more federal aid in North Carolina, so too am I consistently against all of this federal aid that Joe Biden is wanting to send over. Let's listen to his words. And he actually, hey, to his credit, he actually seems like he's having a good dementia day. Listen.
And this morning, due to the magnitude of the disaster, I was talking with the governor, and he requested if I could increase the federal funding that was authorized under this legislation from 75% to 90%. We're increasing it to 100% of all the costs to be covered by the federal government for both the fire management assistance grants and the elements of what they call the disaster declaration. So today I'm announcing that the federal government will cover 100% of the cost for 180 days. This is going to pay for things like debris and hazard material removal, temporary shelters, first responders' salaries, and all necessary measures to protect life and property. And folks, I want to underscore, I told the governor and local officials, spare no expense to do what they need to do and contain these fires and in their communities that have really been devastated.
There's a horrible misconception that's shared by a very strong majority, maybe the vast majority of Americans. I would say that nearly every Democrat feels this way. A good chunk of independents and probably most Republicans feel that the top of the hierarchy of government is the federal government, and that's not true. Okay, the top of government hierarchy is, of course, God. And not that I'm calling for a theocracy or anything. Don't take that the wrong way. It's just that God is sovereign over this planet. Therefore, he's sovereign over the United States of America. But as far as human, male or female government, societal government, we have at the top should be the individual, the family unit. The individual and the family should be the top of government. Self-governance is the key and always has been the key to our success as Americans. Below the individual and the family, you have the community, and then the city, and then the county, and then the state. And at the very, very bottom is the federal government. They're the catch-all, last resort. You could eliminate 90 to 95% of the federal government, and things would begin operating much, 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 much more smoothly in the United States of America. I'm a firm believer of that, which is why, again, when I see Joe Biden out there spending all of our money on this disaster relief, I can be consistent with my opposition to that because I was against the federal government hopping in there and spending all sorts of money when it came to North Carolina relief. Now, I'm not suggesting that there was no room at all for the federal government to help. They should have just. The federal government needs to play a secondary role. Okay, they don't come in and take over. They come in and say, "What do you need? How can we help? You guys are in charge. Tell us what you need." So if you do need generators, great. We got some extra generators. You do need this, we'll get them to you, and you can coordinate with your American citizen volunteers who are leading the efforts to help their fellow Americans. The same thing should be happening again here in Los Angeles once disaster relief starts. There are certain times when government has to supersede the individual. For example, when it comes to actually fighting these fires. Okay, that's something where you don't want a whole bunch of individual volunteers rushing in because they don't have the equipment, they don't have the training. Whereas the city and the state and the city, county, and state should have the firefighter infrastructure, the training, and the equipment to be able to battle these fires. Okay, so during that situation, government gets involved, federal government stays out of it. Now, in the disaster relief aspect of it, now once everything is calmed down, the fires are put out, people are in need. This is when the individuals work with the city and the county and to some extent the state to figure out what needs to be done. Because we can help ourselves if government stays out of the way. And when there's a situation where we can't help ourselves, this is where we get assistance from the community, the city, the county, and the state. And then if there's anything that's absolutely positively needed that you just can't get through the higher levels of government, starting with the individual, then the federal government is the catch-all. They're the safety net. That's how things should be, and we're seeing the exact opposite. And we have seen, to be fair, I mean, this isn't anything new. We've seen this. This has been the government way, whether it's Republican or Democrat in office. Federal government always has supremacy. That's what the Constitution says, supremacy. They always ignore, of course, the 10th Amendment. And that's one of the reasons why our nation is in the position that it's in today.